Hey guys, what's going on? It's Colin here again, back with another fan video. This is going to be another clean and service video, and the candidate for today is I'm guessing it's a 70s or 80s Panasonic. I forget the exact model number. Let's see what it is here. It is a model F1607. It's a 16-inch 3-speed oscillating desk fan with 5-way oscillation actually. And this is a pretty special fan to me because when I was younger my grandmother actually had the 12-inch version of this. I don't know if it's exactly this one, but it was a 12-inch Panasonic, and it was around the same era. It had the same center badge, I believe, or maybe one that was a touch earlier. And I used to play with that thing all the time. I never quite understood at the time that it had 5-way oscillation, so when the fan went all the way like that, it always confused me. Yeah, I think there's a video on my channel of this fan already. And I've been actually using this fan quite a bit in my bedroom. I'll use it when I'm going to sleep or just to move air around in my room. However, for a long time it seemed a little bit sluggish to get up to speed. And more recently the bearings started making some noise. This was actually a thrift store find. I was very excited to find this at the thrift store. Don't remember exactly how much I paid for it, but as I've mentioned in several other videos, because it's always the same thrift store, no fan there cost me more than $15. So it was a good deal either way. It was probably like $6 or $8, something like that. But when I first got it, this thing actually was pretty stiff bearing wise. And if I remember correctly, these motors are not exactly the most serviceable, so I probably just put in some oil from like the front of the shaft and it didn't really go that far into it. So the fact that it's lasted all these years without issues is kind of a miracle. But it definitely needs some love, and I'm going to see if I can really get in there and service it properly. And I'm also going to check the capacitor while I'm in there. But these are quite interesting fans, so I figured I'd bring you guys along for the ride here. So it's really not all that dirty. It's got a little bit of dust buildup, but we'll clean it anyways. We'll give it the love it deserves. But anyways, let's dive right in. Alright, so I took the grills, blades, and motor covers off, and here we are at the bare motor. And this is one thing I always thought was kind of unique to this fan. This is actually an extremely well built fan. I'd argue it's built better than the Lasco Galaxy fans. The only downside is, as I remembered correctly here, this motor is actually riveted together, which isn't cool. But in terms of build quality, check out the size of this motor. I mean, holy crap, that is one hell of a freaking motor. And as if that wasn't enough to counteract the weight, just the sheer weight of the blades and cage, they put this giant, I guess that's cast iron weight on the back of the motor here to help it tilt. Which, if I get the right type of screwdriver here, can be removed to reveal some other stuff. But it's just crazy how large this motor is, and then the fact that they had to add extra weight to get it to tilt nicely. Mind-boggling to me. This has got to be a couple pounds at least. It's just nuts. But everything's nicely put together back here too. Like, you got a little clip here to hold the capacitor in place, and there's like a central wiring harness on the top of the fan, so you can quickly disconnect the head wire, and you can literally just take the whole motor off as a unit and replace it if you really wanted to, I guess. But there's a capacitor, 4.5 microfarads. I will check that with the multimeter in a little bit. Of course, there's no saying it's going to be good, even if it reads alright. Capacitors can read alright and then act differently under load. Alright, sorry about that. Camera battery died there. I forget what I was in the middle of saying, but this oscillator is kind of unique too. It's all plastic around the top here, and it looks like there's just 2 clips that hold it in place. And you can probably get to all the gears and whatnot. I've popped one of the clips loose. The other one was fighting me. Oh, there it goes. Jeez. Those are tough clips. But as you can see, it's kind of a unique gearbox. Everything's kind of just sitting there out in the open. So we're going to take that out of there. This will get some fresh grease. It's like a little cage on the back of the motor. So that's kind of unique. And if you want, you can take it completely off with those 2 screws there. I'm going to take the arm off the oscillator here. Keep in mind when you do these are usually reverse thread. Got that out of there. And now I'm going to have to figure out how the hell I'm going to do this. I'd like to split the motor apart, so I'm probably going to very carefully drill out these rivets, and then I'll replace them with bolts when I'm done. But I gotta sit here and think about this for a little bit, so I'll be back in a second when I figure something out. Always gonna be one troublemaker. That sucked to get out. Stripped the Phillips head, so I cut a slot in it to use a flat head. That stripped, so I ended up putting vice grips on it, and then I cracked it loose. So that kind of sucked. I'll have to get a new screw. But I've successfully removed the whole rear thing for the oscillator. So I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take a piece of wood and drill a hole that the shaft will fit in, so I can sit this in here like that, and I'm going to try and drill out all 4 of these rivets. So let's see how this goes. Alright, 2 down, 2 to go. These things are being a real pain in the ass, I'll tell you that much. That is one thing I'll give the Let's Go Galaxy fans over this one, is that they are much easier to service and take apart. But we're almost there. So I'm going to continue on here, I guess. Well, we got the last one out. I was starting to think for a minute that this idea wouldn't actually work out, but it seems to have worked, and that makes me pretty happy. So, there's your stator. It's one hell of a freaking stator. This thing's got to weigh like 5 pounds. It's crazy. It's a very beefy motor. Let me put that over here. This workbench is now a disaster. But the good news is we can get to the bearings here. Get to the oil wicks and properly oil this thing for probably the first time in its life. Alright, before I put this back together here, I do want to mention a couple things about this motor. See if I can snag those washers there. One, this motor is absolutely massive. Like, I get that it's a big 16-inch fan, but it's probably the biggest motor I've seen in any 16-inch fan in my life. This thing's crazy. This stator probably weighs like 5 pounds. It's absolutely crazy. It's got to be like an inch wide. And the whole motor is like freaking 4 inches deep. The shaft on this is over 3/8 inch diameter. Let's see here. I think it was this one, yeah. 13/32 inch shaft, and it's got cooling fins on the back of the rotor. Just absolutely nuts how well built and, you know, hefty this is. Like, even this shaft's got to weigh a couple pounds. Keep in mind, this fan is also from like the 80s. This is not a fan from the 20s. So this is pretty impressive. The other thing that's interesting is that the thrust washers don't actually ride on the rotor itself. There's little C-clips that are on the shaft here, and that's where they ride. So I guess that's where the bearings are. Which makes sense when you think about how much space that this takes up and where the front bearing is in comparison here. But yeah, it's absolutely crazy. On the good, something good though is I found some screws that will work, so that's definitely good news. But anyways, I'm gonna just continue reassembly here. Well guys, it's done. That actually went pretty smoothly, all things considered. Had to like drill out rivets and stuff, which I'm not used to doing with these little clean and service videos, but everything went pretty smoothly. The only two things that I'm a little bit pissed about right now, I mean the fan came out great, I'm super happy, but there's two things that are really pissing me off about this whole repair. One was when I had that motor stuck in that block of wood, and I went to tap the shaft out of the wood. My stupid ass decided to use a screwdriver and I slipped. And I kind of jammed it into the threads of the screw gear on the back. And I just nicked the threads a little bit so that it kind of makes a rubbing noise once it's going. I'm hoping once the fan is running, I should backtrack. I took some sandpaper and I smoothed it out as best I could. And that helped a lot. And I'm also hoping once it's running you won't be able to hear it. But the other thing was just a complete freak accident, and I'm really annoyed about this actually. I was going and I grabbed this microfiber cloth, and that sandpaper was sitting over here. And I grabbed this microfiber cloth, and just as I was about to wipe this down, the freaking sandpaper got stuck in the microfiber cloth, and I ended up sandpapering my decal down here rather than cleaning it. So I put a bunch of scratches right in the decal. And I'm really pissed off, because this decal was damn near perfect, and now, I don't know if it's so shiny, now I get a bunch of scratches in it from that stupid sandpaper, so that kind of pissed me off. I'm going to see if there's any way I could like polish that and get those out. It's a lot more noticeable in person without the glare. I don't know if you can see, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. So that's really, really annoying, but that was like a total freak accident. That was really weird. I've never had anything like that happen before. But otherwise, it came out really well, and I'm very happy with it. I think that that will be fixed, and I think that the other little issue won't be that much of an issue now that I, cleaned up the... Because what happened was it was like... How do I describe this? It was messed up in a way where the threads were sticking out further than they should have in certain areas. Because when I hit it, it kind of like went like that out to the top. So I filed that down, so now it's all flush. It just makes a little bit of noise because it's a little chewed up, but hopefully you won't be able to hear it very much. But anyways, I have yet to run this since I put the oil in it, so that is a very nice smooth startup, I'll say that much. You can hear it, it makes like a scratching noise, and you can hear it ever so slightly if you put your ear up to it in the back. But I can't hear it otherwise. Let's go down the low here. Yeah, you can hear it a little bit. It almost creates like a tight spot, and I can hear that tight spot. The other thing that's interesting is I can hear a lot more motor noise than I remember now. Maybe that's because I screwed it together and before it was riveted. Not really sure. But that's kind of interesting. But you can definitely hear that, so that's a little annoying. Two stupid little things went wrong with this repair that could have been avoided here. But, oh well. I mean, I guess worst case scenario with those threads in the back, if they start to really annoy me or affect the way that the fan's running, I can recut those, and that won't be that big of a deal. I do know somebody who's a machinist, and that would probably take them all of 5 seconds to like grind those down and make new ones. But this decal, that I don't know about. That I might just have to live with. Although they are really, really shallow. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get those out. I'll have to look into that a little bit. But otherwise the fan seems to be running pretty well. Engage the oscillator here. But I'm going to let this run for a little while, let the oil seep in, and we'll see what happens with that noise. Guys, so it's coming from very far in the future here. It's also about 10:30 at night right now and everybody's asleep. But I started editing this video, which I shot in like, I don't know, July or August. And it's currently January, halfway through January. And I'm about to go back to college tomorrow, so everybody's asleep, but I want to finish this while I'm still home so I can post this video because I realized I'm running out of my fan video supply. But this fan, I think when I left off I was talking about the noise from the oscillator gear getting messed up on the shaft, so I was going to let it run for a while and see what happens. The oil definitely soaked in, made a big difference. The noise did not really go away, but I have a plan to fix it, because what happened was when the screwdriver went in and it bent some of the, I don't know if it so much bent, but that worm gear on the end of the shaft, I pushed through that and I kind of, I guess kind of bent some of the metal that the worm gear is made out of. So there's a regular spot in there that causes more, it's a tighter fit against the plastic gears. And A, that will wear the plastic gears out, and B, it makes an annoying noise, which I mentioned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the motor apart again in a future video probably. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there with some very small files. I'm going to reshape that worm gear and fix the damage I did with the screwdriver. But like I said, that's a topic for a future video. I want to wrap this one up so I can get it out to you guys. But I figured I'd do one last run here. So anyways, let's fire it up on high. It's an extremely powerful fan. Go down the medium here. It's also a very nice distinction between the speeds on this thing, which I mention a lot. I like that quite a bit. It's got a nice quiet low too. There's an awful lot of motor noise tonight. I mean, it is rather chilly in here now, being the winter, and this room is not the warmest. So that might be attributing to that. Also, I think when I put the screws in versus the original rivets, I think that added to some motor noise for one reason or another. So I might have to crank down a little tighter on those or do something about that in the future. But either way, it's not the end of the world. Little motor noise doesn't bother me. But we'll go back up to high here. We'll do a spin down. Also, that worm gear being all screwed up could be attributing to some of the motor noise as well. If that worm gear is pulling the rotor out of magnetic center, it will create more of that whine. But yeah, spin down's pretty good. It could be a little bit better, but again, I think that worm gear being messed up is actually affecting a whole bunch of other different things. But like I said, that's a project for a future video. At least we got the thing apart and we gave it some proper servicing. Learned quite a bit along the way, and I hope this is helpful for anybody else who has these fans. And now you know, if you make a custom jig, don't use a screwdriver to tap the thing out. But I will make a follow-up video about this thing, probably over my summer break, about fixing that. But anyways, guys, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, I really appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe buttons. That would be awesome. And by all means, leave a comment if you have one. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.